Computer, and we are set.
Hey, Terry Bain, fun episode of Business Growth Time. Today we're going to talk about what it takes to be a professional speaker. Man, I got 11 tips. But before we get into those tips, let's talk about the one, the only, the lovely and talented Janet E. Johnson, where today the
Oh,
E has to stand for something. I'm going to go with eating disorder.
oh my gosh, what in the world? I thought you'd do something around the whole excitement of Facebook ads or something.
Yeah, I like to zig when everybody else zags, Janet. You know
Wow.
me. Eating disorder. Because clearly Janet does not have an eating disorder. And oh my God, it's funny. It's sometimes I'm like so at a loss for e-words. I look and I just like,
You
where's an
start
e-word?
thinking of something. I don't know where you came up with that one, but now you really threw the whole show for a loop now.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly where it came up. At the very top of this screen that we use to record, we use a tool called Zoom, right?
Mhm.
And at the very upper left-hand corner, it says Zoom meeting. And so if you drop the letter M from meeting, you have eating.
Wow, that's desperation.
I'm I'm challenged. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we are challenging you on the E word. I will give you that. I mean, you have to come up with that every single time. It's getting to be.
You think
Oh,
I'd
well,
stop at some point? Like I just give up?
just
It's
pull out that big giant dictionary point. I mean, you got that thing. Uh, it
big
is. So
giant.
that must have E
It's
word
got a
possible.
lot of E words in it. I really, that would require pre-planning. That's not really my style, Janet E. Johnson. So,
All right. Well, we are on a little bit of a timeline, so let's get
time,
into the
right.
subject.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk today about the idea of 11 things that you can do to become a paid speaker. And in all full disclosure here, I wrote this for me, right? I wrote this blog post a really long time ago. And because I was like, dude, you like being on stages, you like sharing information, you like engaging audiences. So, what do you need to do to go do more of it? And it got a lot of response. It got a lot of people loving
I
it. I
want to
got a
hear
lot of
it.
great comments.
Yeah, it's something that we're working on right now too.
Both of us
And I
are.
don't get enough speaking gigs, so it would
Mhm.
be very good to know. So let's go. One.
Let's
What's number
go.
one?
Number one. And these aren't really in any particular order, but this is a pretty important one. It's be an expert in something.
Well, we've had a
This,
podcast for many years. I think we're good there.
yeah. So, right. So, if we want to go talk about how to have a podcast that 7 people listen to, we got this shit
Yeah.
nailed down.
Hey, we have more listeners than that. Come on.
That's true. It's like 6. I mean, that's not more. No, I'm kidding. We have people. So thank you for listening, and we
Yes,
appreciate that. All
we
right.
do.
So, expert, what does that mean? What does that take? The idea, according to Malcolm Gladwell, 10,000 hours in something. For those of you that work
Heard of that.
2,080 hours a year, that's 5 years, right? 5 years. So
Interesting.
you're going to have to put some time in, but it doesn't have to be work, right? People want to hear stuff that they want to do. You could be an expert in gardening. You could be an expert in raising a dog. You could be an expert in cleaning a house. There's all kinds of tips,
How
tricks,
many speaking gigs
life
are
hacks.
there for cleaning a house?
What's that? Tell me. Listen, man, if you could tell me how to keep this house cleaner so I didn't have to listen to my wife tell me to sweep the floors, but you could save me
Uh,
time and energy doing it and money,
you put them on
I,
stage?
I wouldn't listen. No, I wouldn't listen.
Exactly.
Listen, I got to clean the house, right? It's top of mind, all right? So I
Uh,
I try and use real world examples, Janet E. Johnson.
okay,
Part of
okay. I'm just sorry. Yeah, okay, I won't mock anymore. Number two. What's number two? Okay, be an expert, 5 years. Got it.
5 years. Number 2, decide that you want to get paid to speak, right? You have to become utterly conscious about this idea that not only do you want to be paid to speak, but that you are worthy of being paid to speak. And until you get through the head trash that maybe my stuff's not good enough, maybe no one wants to listen to me, maybe my topic about house cleaning isn't really relevant, whatever the case may be, you've got to commit to this is what I'm going to do. And I'll tell you this, not only is it important from you being able to communicate it to potential audiences or event planners or the people that would book a speaker. It's important for you to be able to communicate it to your network that you have the kind of value that they want to hear about. And it's important for the universe to be able to know that you are committed to taking this action. Make sense?
Does make sense. Yep.
Okay.
Got that one.
Hold that intention, right? Be really focused on it.
Sure.
So, number 2. All right, number 3, start sharing your knowledge, right? At some point, you're going to have to think about what you're going to talk about. Probably helps to outline it out, maybe even to build the presentation. You can build it before you need it. And then take the little segments, take the little sentences, take key phrases, whatever, make memes or just make posts and start putting that out. You know, Janet, in Business Growth Time, we have a thing, Motivational Monday, right? We have a quote every Monday that people can post about. So what if you started quoting yourself instead of quoting other people? Use your content that aligns with you and it'll attract your audience.
Got it. Makes sense. Put that content out there that's similar to what you want to speak about. Yep.
Number 4, tell people you want to speak, right? You've got to enroll other people into helping you because it's a lot of work, right? And say, listen, it's a great Facebook post. It's a great LinkedIn post. Could be a tweet. I am looking to speak on X topic in front of these types of audiences. Who do you know that can help me do that?
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's just kind of where it is. Number 5 dovetails into this really well. This part sucks, but this is the work, right? This is how you get to the 10,000 hours. Start speaking for free.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's a funny thing, and I know this for a fact. The more I go out and speak, the more I speak. When I go and present to people, I get invited to present to other groups because the people in the audience are like, oh my God, we got to have you come talk at this. We got to have you come talk here or there, whatever the case may be. It builds on itself. So where can I speak for free? Every Rotary group that you've ever heard about looks for speakers almost incessantly, right? It's nonstop. Rotary, chambers of commerce, Kiwanis. You can speak in church. You can go speak in front of the library. They're always looking for people to share knowledge. If you really have information that people want, pretty easy to do. Janet's got a group.
Yeah, right? The meetup. I was going to say, you know, this great story because that it does work because even that person wasn't in the audience, but they saw my meetup and then they saw the topic that I was speaking on, and they emailed me and asked me to speak at their event for a pay. Happened to be when I was in Wisconsin Dells, so I had to say no, but bottom line is it just spins off on it. So I agree completely. Get out there, and the more you're out there. So if you run a meetup and you speak at that meetup, that's a great way just to get in front of people too, or go speak at somebody else's meetup too.
Absolutely. And if you're in the Detroit area and you got a topic that's cool, I'm always looking for people to speak at Motor City Connect. So, right? Just call me. People are like, how do I get on stage? You ask. It's really easy, right? And you have to be, you know.
Yep.
Not that everybody gets on stage, but yeah, you gotta ask. So, all right. So we talked earlier about putting content out there, right? Start sharing your knowledge was point 3. And point 6 is you can use that knowledge for building blocks of your presentation. The reality is you can build the presentation and use that information as hooks to bring people in, or you can use what's worked as hooks to bring people in to be part of your presentation, right? So it can go both ways, right? So you can actually test some of your material by posting it as a Facebook or LinkedIn post. See what resonates with that audience. Okay. If it works online, it's probably going to work live too. So
helps
really
you come up with your topic. Yeah,
it really does. It helps shape it. You know, and I do this.
Think about doing like a webinar with that topic too, or something like that, or videos or whatever, and then you could still use the same topic for speaking.
Absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely.
Okay.
You know, and then in fact, it ties into point seven a little bit. But you know, Facebook Live ends up being a decent way to practice and to get used to being in front of folks. It's not really the same thing. Listen, there's two types of speakers. There's folks that are energy suckers, right? That go in and they take the energy from the audience and they use that to propel themselves into the different state of mind that they need to be in, and that's great and it works, but they end up sucking energy out of the audience. Then there's speakers that bring energy to the audience and they fill the audience, and it's a real different feel. If you're an energy sucker, Facebook Live and any sort of video thing is going to be really tough for you because there's nobody there to feed you energy.
Yeah.
If you're an energy giver, man, it doesn't matter if you're standing in front of a wall, right? And you can probably guess which side of that coin I fit on. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, you do. I agree because I had a speaker recently that just wasn't, people were yawning to death.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
kind of
if
just
listen, if
tells you.
people are bored, then the speaker can't suck any energy off of them because they're already drained, and
Exactly.
it's an ugly cycle. It
Mhm.
really is difficult. So anyway, um, build that presentation, use that content. Number seven, yay, seven. It's a good one. It's practice. It's pretty straightforward. And it's tough, right? Hey, listen, there are a lot of people that will tell you that speaking in public is a fear for them greater than death.
Yes, I've heard that. I'm
Right?
not one of those, and you're not one of those, but some people just could not, like, it's just absolutely terrifying. But there's people that want to be public speakers, you're saying, that are terrified.
I was at an event last week, and I've barely started. I can't tell if it's in there.
Unlocking
So,
happiness at work. Yeah.
Unlocking Happiness at Work by a lady named Jennifer Moss. Really interesting story, really interesting book, but it's all about the idea of, listen, if we don't change the paradigm of how people feel about work, the quality of work isn't going to improve, right? They're talking about the correlation there. Jennifer Moss got up and gave a presentation, and she spent the first couple of minutes talking about how she used to be paralyzed to speak, right? The
Wow.
idea of being in front of
Wow.
a group was like, absolutely not. But then something happened in her life, specifically to her husband, that changed her entire outlook. He almost died, had a little bit of an accident, and came through it because of his positive mental attitude. They started studying happiness, and in the mission that she became on to share that story got her way past any fear she had of speaking in front of people. So sometimes it might take a little something else to push you in that direction. So look for things that can drive you. And I'll tell you one thing that'll make you feel more comfortable every single time is knowing what you're going to talk about. It is. So that's why
Sure.
number seven
Practice.
is practice.
That's part of the reason I like to run my group. I speak every 2 months at it, and then I bring in guests every 2 months, and because I always have new topics, and then I can practice. So that's a group that I can practice on. Practice, see the feedback, and then that might be something. Then you go, okay, now I know which is going to work for pushing to the paid speaking. So
That makes perfect sense, right? And it's kind of cool that you have that group because it's a nice little it's a nice place for a dry run, right? To try some things out, and that's
exactly.
really important.
Well, and you have the same thing. You can do the same thing with your group too. So, yep, it helps. If you haven't built up a group, consider it. Definitely consider it.
It's really worth it for a lot of reasons, and that's a big one.
And it could be even a Facebook group. We can narrow it down to a Facebook group doing lives presentations, inside a Facebook group, and getting the feedback there is another way of practicing and getting feedback.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right, number 8. Go wow them. Go wow them. So there's 3 things that really are important to your audience, right? Your information, your content has to be interesting. It's got to be relevant. And in some way, shape, or another, it's got to inspire them to action. the higher you score on these three, the better off you are. So it's an interesting piece to me, because a lot of times we'll end up creating conversations or topics that we think are going to be interesting, but they're only interesting to a select group of people. But we try and get as many people there as humanly possible. You're better off to just target your audience, dot the right people between the eyes, and have 10 or 15 people in a room that are super excited about what you're going to share, than having 60 people in the room that couldn't care less. Is that have you ever seen anything like that, Janet?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, and it's similar to podcasting. I mean, to have 100 raving fans versus you might not have thousands of people, but to have a few that are really interested in your content is very, very similar type of thing. Yep.
Yep. And it becomes really, really important. So along those ideas, you want to ask your audience for a few things. One of the best tips that I got came from a buddy of mine, Michelangelo Caruso. We should have Mac on the show some point. He is the single most professional speaker I know, and he's one of the guys that speaks at Rotary all the time, but he's really smart about it, travels the world speaking at Rotary, and while he's there, he books corporate gigs. So not only does he get to go all over the place and do cool stuff,
Really?
yeah, he's really, really smart about it. So it's a good move by him.
That's
But
cool.
Michael gave me the tip a long time ago. He's like, listen, don't ever leave a presentation without getting content and permission from people to contact them. So I'm looking over here. I got a stack of business cards. I gave a presentation to 50 people the other day, and I asked them, and I'm not going to do that, but there's 35 business cards in my hand. I
Yeah.
asked them what they wanted information on, what I could follow up with them on, whether I could follow up with them on information about my book, whether I could follow up with them on information on a LinkedIn course that I was offering, whether I could follow up with them about Motor City Connect and some business networking opportunities, or whether I could follow up with them about successes in your face presentation that I'm doing in a couple of weeks. And I said, whatever you want, just write LinkedIn. I'll send you a note about LinkedIn. If you want coaching, I'll send you about coaching, whatever. And so I got 35 different pieces of leads from these folks that asked me for something very specific.
That's cool.
And I got permission to be in
Sure,
front
you
of
could
them.
have told me that before last night. Okay, but anyway, go ahead.
We should have recorded this last week.
Exactly.
But hey, listen, do it. And it works.
Now I collect all their emails, so I could just put a nice polite email out there that, yeah. So.
And that's good. And that is really good. But you can also ask them for feedback, right? And tell them when you're up in front, hey, listen, I'm really approachable and I love to talk to people after the presentation. So please come up and talk to me, right?
Sure.
And invite them, because a lot of people, it's a weird thing, right? Whoa, man, they're important. They're up there. We're so different because we're in front of the audience all of a sudden. So you have to break down that wall, break down that barrier, invite them to come up, and then asking them for further discussion, and then say, listen, I love doing this and I want to do this as much as possible. So if you're in a group or an association, or if you're in an industry conference that you go to, can you make an introduction for me? And tell them specifically that you want that and ask them for it. Really, really important. So, make sense?
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you're there to get yourself in front of people, but also potentially to get leads too, and make sales. I mean, that's the end all goal of everybody's business. So, but now, granted, if you're hired to speak, there's some places you probably might not be able to do that.
So if you're doing,
know the rules too.
If you're doing a corporate event, right? If I'm going into a company, I will not necessarily go through some of those questions.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I can see this a lot of times at free, when you speak for free, they let you, like when people come speak at my event, I say anything goes. You can promote anything you want because I'm not paying you. So I think there's some fine lines with that, I guess.
But it's really, if you think about it, it's how you present it, right? It's not, hey, come buy my book.
Yep.
Right. It's hey, if you'd like information about this, let me know. It's
yep.
a little. It's a subtle difference, and it's subtle enough that I haven't gotten in any trouble for it yet.
Sure. Okay. Go
Who
ahead.
knows? Who knows? Time will tell. I might get slapped and I'll have to, do a
Well,
retract.
I think it's just knowing the rules. Yeah. Yeah. Because some places will say absolutely no promotion of any sort, but they paid
That's
you.
right.
So,
No selling from stage is a big thing,
yeah,
right? But again,
exactly.
it's how you present that info.
Yep.
Number 10, share the results. I'm horrible at this. I'm really, really bad. What I want to get better at and what I encourage you to be great at is say, hey, do us a favor, check in. Let people know that you're here. In fact, if you would be so kind as to take a photo of me speaking, tag me in that picture and post it, that would be phenomenal. Or you can
Got
actually
it.
just ask people to take a picture while you're up there. Hey, I'm looking to try and build my repertoire. If someone can give me a couple of photos of me doing this, that would be, if you'd be so kind to text me, that would be great. But you've got to get photos or video or proof that you're doing it, and
Good
have
point.
people say something nice.
Good point. Yeah, I did a level of that, but not the full level like somebody else posting it. I should have
Hmm.
done. But Connie took a whole bunch of pictures last night. So we had pictures and videos, but we will have to post it ourselves, kind of, sort of. But I kind of like the idea to take it the next step is have somebody else doing it. Hey, I'm at this presentation by so and so. They tag you, and it's coming from a third party. Much better.
It's so powerful. It's so
Hmm.
powerful, especially if they're an influencer too. Then it's really, really good.
Oh yeah.
And then you can go comment. You can say something really nice. We've had Bob Berg on the show, and Bob is such a master at staying in touch with people that say nice things about him. In
Mm.
every post, he's like, you just look at it and go, man, what a mensch. This is the nicest guy on the planet. So good stuff. All right, number 10 was share the results. So number 11.
Number 11
Holy
and the last
cow.
one. What is it?
It's the most important
It
question.
is.
Yes. Do you want to know what the
Okay.
question is? Do you have a budget for speakers? Or what is your budget for speakers? If you don't ask, if you don't put in their mind that you're expecting to get paid, they will not expect to pay you.
Oh, got it, got it. Okay, so you're supposed to ask them, what do you have a budget or what is your budget
What
for?
is your budget for speakers? Yeah. What kind of
Got
budget
it.
do you have allocated for speakers?
Mm,
And they'll never give you a direct answer to this question, right? No one's ever going to say, well, and I shouldn't say no one, right? I've had it happen a couple of times where they're like, we were thinking about spending $1,000, or we were thinking about up to, $400. But the common answer is, well, we really haven't given a lot of thought, or we don't have a budget for this. And then in that point, you have to make a decision as to whether or not you actually want to do something with them, because um, it's always a trade-off, right? You can get your practice done speaking in front of a group. You could get referrals. You could collect cards. So there's a lot of really good reasons to go speak for free. But one of those that's tough is if you're speaking for free, you're not a paid speaker. So it's you got to make that decision. Is this audience going to add enough value to me? I finally said, listen, I've got a rate that I'll work with for nonprofits, and it's a bare minimum, and candidly, it's like $250. I will go speak for $250 because to me, I'm not going to speak for longer than an hour. If I'm doing consulting, I'm gonna charge right around there for an hour of my time. I might get some other cool things out of it. And my
yeah.
wife can't say, why are you doing this for free? Right.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so it's weird because now, I spent the last year and a half or so, kind of leaving the speaking business and going chasing some
Yes.
other dreams and VR and marketing consulting stuff. And it's not where my passion is. It's not what I love to do. I love this. I love being in front of and educating and helping and answering questions. Right. So I kind of have to rebuild that speaking thing, and so now it's timely that we're going through this so
It's
it can
for
be
your
top of
own.
mind
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And that's
yeah,
interesting because we were just talking about it last night. Same for me. And hopefully there's some people in our audience that this is really making them go, oh, yeah, I need to be doing this. I should be doing this. Maybe you're doing some of these things already, but maybe there's things that you're missing out on. So
absolutely.
very valuable content for anybody that wants to be a speaker for sure.
And we'll make sure, because like I said, I got a whole write up on this. I wrote it as a blog post, so I'll make sure that I get the blog post. We
Yep.
put it in the
We'll
show
put it in the
notes
notes.
so you
Yep.
can read through it. Because what I didn't read the thing to you. I used the bullet points and then talk from the heart. But yeah, you'll get some other value if you read it too. Maybe.
Yeah.
If you got value from the conversation, you'll get value from the
Well, some
notes. If you
people
thought the
like reading, some
conversation
people
sucked,
like listening. So, yeah, some people like watching. It just depends. So, we provide all of that here. So, let's finish up with where they can, where's the best place to reach out to you if they want, or even myself for speaking.
oh, that's a good question, Janet E. Johnson. Well, they can find us at businessgrowthtime.com. Obviously, we each have our own little page.
Yeah, we do.
Now I think about it, I don't even know if those pages, we must have links that go to our
We do.
individual
We
websites,
go
right?
to all the individual places that you can.
All the places. But you
You
can
got it.
find me and read about what presentations I have at trybean.com, trybean.com. There's a keynote speaker link on the left-hand side. Click it, and it'll detail some of the stuff that I've already written and talk about. But I'm always happy to put custom presentations. Do you have something like a speaker page or
I
anything
do
like
have a
that at this
speaker
point?
page. Yep. So janetjohnson.com, and then just go to services. I think it's speaker. So I have a speaker page too. And now I actually have a couple new presentations too, because times change fast with social media. So
They
I
do.
haven't updated that, but so just reach out and then you could find, I could speak on a lot of different things. So awesome. Well, you can also find our past episodes at businessgrowthtime.com/blog or podcast. And then the other place is join our Facebook group. So for more conversations at businessgrowthtime.xyz. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thanks, Terry. This was awesome.
Thank you. Always a pleasure. Love it. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.